Hey YouTubers, welcome back to John's Garage. So today we're going to be changing out a battery. So in this car the battery is right under this box. There we go. So this battery has a leak right here where the plastic is cracked in the case. It's almost 4 years old, so we're going to go ahead and change it out because it's leaking acid, making a mess. So I'm going to show you the safe way and the proper way to change out a battery. You might be a young person that's new to cars, or you might be a person that's not very mechanically inclined, but I will show you how to change out a battery. So in this car, all you need is a 10mm wrench like this, or a socket like this. Very simple to get out. Few safety precautions. If you're working around acid, you want to wear old clothes so you don't get acid holes in your clothes. You may want to wear gloves if there's a lot of leaking acid. This one's still pretty clean. We'll just be careful not to touch this acid here with our fingers. So one of the dangers of working on a battery is the energy between the positive and the negative. So don't ever drop a wrench to short out the positive with any metal like that bracket or across the two. That would be lots of flying sparks if you did something like that. So as long as you disconnect the negative first, move that cable aside, then disconnect the positive without touching any other metal with your wrench, then you're pretty much safe. So on this 3.2 Acura TL, it's a 2000 model year, this car does have navigation. So two things you want to have written down before you disconnect the battery. You want to write down your radio security code and your navigation code, because when you take the battery out, depending on how long it's out, you're probably going to lose the settings on your radio and your navigation. And when you put the battery back in, it's going to ask you, when you try to turn on the car radio, the factory radio, it's going to ask you to enter a security code. Otherwise the radio is not going to work. It's an anti-theft device. Same with your navigation. When it turns on, it's the first thing it's going to ask is for you to enter your code. So make sure you have those two. The more modern cars, the more electronics. This car, you don't have to re-index the windows. Newer cars, it's a safety feature for children so that the windows don't go up and pinch their fingers. You have to set the windows, and you can look in your owner's manual to see how that's done. Some of the cars you just go down halfway and then raise the window up and hold the window switch up for like 10 seconds, and then it knows the window is closed. And that's how it indexes. You have to do that on all the windows. So that's really the only things you have to make sure of, is that you have your codes for any electronics after you take your battery out and put the new one in. The other thing is your smog is not going to be ready. So if you got a smog test tomorrow, don't change your battery the night before, because you do need to drive the car through a specific drive cycle to reset all the smog settings to make sure it is ready for the emissions test. And Honda and Acura make that really simple. I've taken this battery out. Even disconnecting the negative could mess up your smog settings, and then you have to drive the car. But Honda, it's like you go for one drive and then you park it, and then your second drive it's ready to go. And I'll show you on a OBD2 scanner how to tell if you're ready for smog. But like I say, changing a battery in a Honda or Acura is really not going to mess you up for smog. As long as you drive it, park it, and then drive it again, you should be fine. Chevys and other cars have a very specific drive cycle of certain speeds to maintain for so many minutes, and then decelerate without touching the brakes, and they're a little harder to reset sometimes. So it's not a big deal if your smog check is a ways out. If you drive the car every day, it's going to reset by itself. But if you got a smog coming up in the next day or two, you want to make sure you do the drive cycle reset and make sure you check that the car is ready for smog before you go in, if you just happen to change your battery the night before. So this battery is an Optima Red Top 25. It's called Red 25 is the model. And batteries come in different configurations of where the posts are. Some of them have the posts on the side for Chevrolet, just a screw post. Some have these in different positions, closer in. The red 25 fits most Hondas, Acuras, Toyotas, and Lexus. So this one is not in stock at AutoZone. I did have to call the store and order it. It takes 2 days to get, so it came in today, so I'm going to go ahead and change the battery. If you got a Chevy with side posts, they seem to stock those. I don't know why they don't carry these. Anyway, I got it at AutoZone, so we're going to take this out. In California, there is a battery recycling fee and a core charge, so it's 18 bucks. I got to bring the old one back to get my $18, so I'm going to make one trip by taking the battery with me and getting the new battery swapped, and then some auto parts stores will change it for you in the parking lot. I don't like people messing with my car, so I'm going to do it myself. So let's get started. Okay, so the carry handle for this battery, I saved it. It's sitting right here. So we're going to use this to lift the battery out. It's pretty heavy. Batteries have lead in them, so they're heavy. So first thing I'm going to do is disconnect this negative here, lefty-loosey. Okay, so let's get that negative off. And a good way to clean battery acid is with baking soda. So get yourself a box of Arm & Hammer baking soda. So a little box like this from the grocery store, mix it with a little water and a little cup, and take a toothbrush or something and scrub around there. You get all that acid off, because this is a strong base, and that's a strong acid, hydrosulfuric acid. So you mix strong base, strong acid, you neutralize it to a pH of 7, which is safe like water, and it gets rid of the acid. So let's set this negative aside so it doesn't come back on us. Next thing we want to do is I'm going to use a deep 10 millimeter socket so I can take off the hold down. You always want to have a hold down on your battery so it's not moving around when you're driving, braking and accelerating, going around corners. You don't want the battery flying around because you don't want it to hit anything and short out. And you don't want to put strain on the posts, because these are not meant to retain the battery with. They can actually damage the battery if they're not, if they have strain on them. So this hold down is just a J-bolt like that. So there's a little hook under there, and that's how both sides are held in with a J-bolt. Do the other side. Like I say, it's a J-bolt there. Just take that out. And now for the positive, you should always have a protector over the positive. Some it's a plastic piece, like on Toyotas, because you don't want anything metal touching that. That could short out the battery, damage your alternator, start a fire. So being careful not to touch the wrench on any metal while you're doing this. Wiggle that off. A little bit of corrosion there, we'll clean that. So now we are ready to take the battery out. So just put this strap back on both sides. There we go. And it's ready to lift out of the car. So once you got the battery out, it's a good time to vacuum in there. This battery box just lifts out. You can clean underneath it. There's a metal tray. One of the reasons I use Optima batteries is because they're supposed to be spill-proof and never leak acid. You can even mount them sideways and they're not supposed to leak. If you have any battery acid mess, clean it all up with baking soda. dry it all off. If you need to repaint any metal surfaces, now would be a good time to get some Rust-Oleum spray paint and spray over that. But this is in good shape. It's got a good battery tray to catch anything like that so it doesn't get on the metal and cause corrosion. The other thing about this Optima battery to go into this car, you'll notice on the bottom there is a red tray on the bottom. So you'll notice clipped to the bottom is it's about a 1-inch tray that lifts it up, and we are going to get a new one with the new battery, but that just comes off, and that is to make it the right height for our bracket to hold it down. Now when you're transporting an old battery, you probably want to have a plastic tray or something to carry it in. If there's any powdered battery acid or liquid acid, you don't want to get that on the carpeting of your car that you're carrying it in. So put the battery in a tray, and be careful. Don't get any powdered acid or liquid acid on your upholstery or carpeting in your car. Okay, since I did not wear gloves when working on this battery, I washed my hands really good before I get into my other car because I don't want to have any traces of acid on my hands getting on the steering wheel or anything else. Okay, we are back from AutoZone where we picked up our new battery and traded in the old one for our $18 core charge. And how do we know this is a brand new battery? Well, there is a date code sticker on it from the manufacturer that shows when it was made. So this battery was made in August of 2000. So it shows 8/20. So that was within the last 2 or 3 weeks this battery was made. So we'll check the charge next to make sure it's actually charged. One nice thing that Optima does when they ship these batteries is they put the bottom tray, they put it on the top of the battery so that the posts don't get damaged. Sometimes the guys in the trucking or the auto parts store, these batteries are heavy, so they throw them around like gorillas, and that can damage the posts and put cracks in the battery. So this helps protect the posts from getting damaged and keep your battery nice. So we are going to use this tray. We're going to turn it over and attach it to the bottom of the battery. We don't need part of this here. We can cast this aside. We don't need that. But we do need this on the bottom of the battery to raise the height of it 1 inch so that the factory hold down is going to work. Let's just lift this battery up and clip it in there. There. Now we've got the height raised up on it. And now let's take off these covers, positive and negative, and we'll check the charge on the battery. So on this battery, it's a red 25. We see that the cranking amps is rated at 910. The cold cranking amps is 720. And the reserve capacity is 90. But we need the first two numbers on here, the CA and the CCA. So we're going to get our Solar BA5 battery tester. You may have seen that in my other video. So we are going to set this up. Positive and negative. And then our device turns on. So we are going to put in this is a spiral battery. It is AGM, absorbent glass material, and it is spiral configuration. We are going to test, let's do cranking amps first. Let's set that to 910 and press enter. And it says it is at 1057, so that's good, but it does say it still needs a charge. So it's greater than the rating on the sticker. The rating was 910 and we're at 1057. So let's do cold cranking amps. And cold cranking on the sticker says 720. Hit enter, and it's at 880, so that's good. So let's check the voltage. 12.57, 12.55. So it does need a little bit of a charge, but not much. So we got a good battery here. So we're going to go ahead and put it in the car, and then we'll hook it up to a charger. So you're probably asking why, if the cranking amps and cold cranking amps were higher than the sticker, why does it say it still needs a charge? So let's get my cheat sheet out here. And it shows that the voltage should be 12.6 or higher to be 100% charged. And we're at 12.55, so we're at 90%. So that's why the Solar BA5 is showing that it still needs a charge. So before we put the battery in, we want to clean the connectors. If you don't have a tool like this, just pick one up at your local auto parts store. And this is for cleaning batteries. So you can use this end here on the posts, and you put it on there and turn it. These are brand new, so I don't need to clean them. They should be shiny clean, but if they got corrosion, a little baking soda to clean corrosion, grind this to make them shiny clean. And this side is for the cable connectors. So I need to clean mine a little bit because I got a little bit of corrosion on there. Battery acid will clean it off the connector. So here in the car on the negative connector, got a little green stuff on here. Clean it off. A little scrubbing there, make it shiny. Put this inside, turn it around, and you should wear safety glasses while you're doing this so you don't get any of this crud in your eyes. So you just turn that around, make it all nice and shiny. Put this on to make it a bigger handle to hold. Clean any kind of corrosion you see off of there. And because there's no battery, there's no charge here. If these cables touch, it's not going to short anything out because the energy is gone. Clean up our positive. Make sure it's all nice and clean there. Okay, so we cleaned off all traces of any kind of corrosion, battery acid off of our connectors, positive and negative. Used a little bit of baking soda and water. Scrub those clean. So let's put our new battery in, making sure to pay attention to which direction the posts are. Get the positive where your red connector is. Set that down in there. Let's take this off. We don't need this anymore, but we will save it in the car. Set it here for now. So we got our positive here where our red connector is, and our negative here where our black connector is. So let's put in our battery hold down and find the place where the J hook goes down. Just turn it sideways and then get it under there and hook it up. So we got that side in. Now let's put the other. Put this J hook in there. And put the little nut on there. When you tighten down a battery, don't crush the battery because there's a seal on this lid. Get it tight so the battery doesn't move around, but don't crush it. I'm not going to make it all the way tight yet. I will tighten it after we get it, after we get the terminals on, just in case we have to move the battery a little bit. So you can put some of this, if you have some, dielectric grease. They sell little packages at the auto parts store for like $1, and you could put it on your battery terminals, and it keeps them from getting any kind of corrosion. And I'm kind of mixed on that. If you put a lot, you're going to attract sand and dirt all over this. This one's covered, so it's not as likely, but I don't overdo it with this stuff, but you can do that. I'm also not a fan of those little green and red chemically treated felt things that go underneath here. I've tried those before. They don't seem to do much either to prevent any kind of corrosion. Okay, so you decide if you're going to put some on there. If you don't check your battery a lot, you might want to. If you check your battery and clean it often, you may not want to. So put your positive cover on so that nothing shorts out against it. And let's check it. It is tight. Negative is tight. The battery hold down is tight. So in case we ever have to get the battery out again in the future, like on a road trip, let's save this handle to make it easy to remove. Stick it in there somewhere. It's just plastic. It's not going to short on anything. So we'll keep that in there. Now let's put on our beauty cover. Put this hole on this side. And then line it up over here. Okay, there we go. Now before we go inside the car, since I did not wear gloves because it's like 113 degrees and I don't want to wear latex gloves when it's this hot, I'm going to go wash my hands really well before I go inside the car. Okay, so now we're in the car and we still have the factory radio in this car. So when we turn it on, it's going to say code. That's our theft prevention. So I have the code written down here, and I'm not going to show you as I punch it in, but I'm going to use the buttons on the radio. They have numbers. And the radio started up. Okay. So now our sat nav needs a code. Let me turn the key off again. Do that again. This is a 20-year-old factory original sat nav. So it says enter code, and I'm not going to show you that. I'm just going to enter it. Okay, and now it came up. I think it's going to make me park the car outdoors with the engine running for the satellites in space. Yep. So it's got to be, I'm inside a garage, so I'm going to have to go outside, run the car for 10 minutes at idle in park, and let the satellites see it, and then it will know where I'm at. And it should set the clock too. If not, I can manually set the clock by going into setup, but it should pick it up automatically. So that takes care of the radio. It will take care of the navigation and the clock. And I'll show you one more thing. If you're going to get smog soon, I'll show you this car is not ready for smog because we just changed the battery. So we're going to go down here and take out the cover and find the OBD connector. It's a little dark, I'm sorry. Take our OBD code reader and plug in down there. And it says emission status. See if that'll focus. Anyway, it should be green. It is yellow, saying we need to drive the car. So if you just take it, go to your local freeway. So it's a little bit of city driving. Drive from one off-ramp to the other. You'll see some emissions things flashing here that it's not ready. There's no codes, but it's just not ready because it hasn't run through all the devices. So go down to the freeway, go from one ramp to the other at freeway speed. Hopefully your freeway moves more than 55 miles an hour. Get off, turn around, come back, park the car, let it cool down, and then on your next drive, let's say you have to go to the smog station, that will be your second drive and the car should be ready. I always check with this code reader before I go get a smog check to make sure I'm ready. But like I say, we just changed the battery. We have not driven it, so of course we're not ready. So we got two things to do. We're going to go outside and let our GPS satellite pick up the car at idle, and then we're going to drive the car. Then we're going to park it. I'll put it on a battery charger because we're at 90% voltage. We want to get to 100. And during this pandemic, I leave all my cars on battery chargers. They're just trickle chargers to maintain the battery because they don't get driven that much right now. So we'll put the car outside and do the sat nav. Okay, so we're outside. We ran the car for 10 minutes and the satellite picked up our navigation. A display off. And our clock is still set, so we did not have to reset the clock. So we got our clock, our navigation, our radio. Time for a little test drive to get the smog reset. Okay, we went for drive number 1. We're going to park the car, let it cool off. Then we'll go for drive number 2 later on in the day, and we should be ready for smog. And then we'll just leave the car parked with the battery tender on it. And I think we can call that job done.